Yo, what's up? It's your boy E.T. Welcome to another edition of M.A.S.S Impact, the educational podcast. Now, look, the reason why I started this, I truly believe that education is the way to close the gap, the wealth gap, the digital divide gap, the opportunity gap. Look, the American dream gap. Can I be honest? Everybody's not experiencing the American dream in the way it's supposed to be experienced. So the reason why we started the M.A.S.S Impact, the educational podcast, is to close that gap. Now look, M.A.S.S is simple. It means motivate, actionable steps, which means what? We're going to give you strategies every week. So we're not just going to motivate you and inspire you, which is important, but we're going to give you actionable steps. And look, it's a support system, y'all. Thus M.A.S.S. It's your boy E.T. Now you know. Let's go. Yo, what's up, fam? It's your boy E.T. Hey, you feel it. You see the excitement. Let me tell you why, though, before we get started. And we changed the name. M.A.S.S Impact. We'll talk about why, what it means. We got, iPhone 4, iPhone 5, iPhone 6. You always got to take it to another level. So you thought we was going to not take it to the next level? It's the pandemic is over. I'm claiming it. But I'm so excited, y'all. Man, I can't believe I'm old enough to have a child with a master's degree. You know what I'm saying? I can't believe I'm old enough. You know what I'm saying? But I guess I am. You feel me? And I ain't even had no child when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I was 25. Time passes though. But shout out, man, to my baby girl. If you've heard me do this shout out already, just act like you haven't. Okay? But I think the thing I'm most grateful for is she did not get to March with her 4-year degree because it was during the pandemic. And she never complained. Never, woe is me. Why this happened to me? I worked hard my whole life. She went on none of that. She just put her head down, went for the master's. And by God's grace, we didn't know that COVID was going to, pass and we were going to be able to get back in numbers, and the breads was packed. But I'm grateful because, I dropped out, got my life right. I marched across the breads. My son marched across the breads. My daughter marched across the breads. You know what I'm saying? And my sister came, and my sister was like, yo, you broke that cycle. You broke that cycle. And so super, super geeked up. And I got to give my mom credit. My mom, of course, had me so she couldn't go to college. But I graduated. My sister graduated. I went to Michigan State. My sister, Nico, graduated from high school, went to U of M. My baby sister went to Lakewood Forest in Illinois. And so my mom eventually went back. She was like, yo, I'm not going to be the only one in the house without a degree. So my mom graduated in her 50s. I think she's either 50, 51, something like that. So, yeah, super excited, man. Super proud moment. I stood the whole time. Everybody was like, why are you standing? I was like, because I'm about to take all of this in. I'm taking it all in.
Yes, sir.
So we got 3 masters in the house. 3 of us, and my daughter's like, she going for a PhD. She just want to work for a minute, then she going back, she said. So super excited. But anyway, M.A.S.S, right? As in massive impact, right? I'm gonna let Katie break it down. She was the one I told her I needed. I don't need no credit, but I gotta give honor where honor is due. She came up with the acronym. But I want y'all to know that we're not just making massive impact in the streets. We're starting home. I did it for myself first. Mm-hmm. Everybody on the crew, everybody, CJ, Carl, everybody, degrees amongst us, Maul, we all subscribe. Look, we say school isn't for everybody, but we don't know who it's not for. Okay, so we truly believe college is not for everybody. We just don't know who it's not for. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
so we promoting it until we figure out who it's not for. All right. So with that being said, Katie, take us away. Tell us the genesis of M.A.S.S Impact and then what it means.
Yeah, and we believe education is for everybody, right? That's the bottom line. That and all of us here, we can maybe even reintroduce ourselves, might be helpful, but all of us here can share why education has been so impactful to us and why we really believe that it is it's the part of the world impact that we love the most and want to be a part of for the future. So I'm actually first female in my college, or my family, to graduate from college too. My brother was first person in my family to graduate from college. And so he was the first male. And then I'm the only person in my family with a master's degree too. So those are like exciting things, and my family is so excited and proud of those things too. And when we talk about like education for everybody and how it looks differently, my family is full of tradesmen, so I talk about that often, and they found great success in that. So there's a whole education space that looks that way too. But education is for everybody, and it will change the world, and that's why we want to be a part of the massive impact that inspires not just the students, but the educators to stay in the spaces that are going to impact the students the most. And so you've heard us talk about this year more than ever, educators leaving the field, and we want you to be inspired to stay and to feel supported because you matter and you're going to make the biggest difference for our students. So Mass Impact, the education podcast. This is where we want you to be every week. We want to support you and inspire you. And Mass, M.A.S.S. So the M is for motivation. You know where that's coming from out of this crew. We're all lucky to be able to be a part of it. So motivation, actionable tips. We want you to leave with something that you can use tomorrow. And not just teachers. We're here for administrators, mentors, anybody working in the education space with students. So actionable tips. And then SS, support system. You've heard him say it. We all need somebody to lean on. So we want you to feel like we are your support system as you are changing the world as educators. So
absolutely. And we're asking you to be intentional and deliberate about massively impacting your world. Now, you may not be a person who's trying to globally, internationally, nationally. You might just impact your classroom, right? You might just your net, whatever. But we want you to be intentional and deliberate. So I'll start off by saying, this is why knowledge and college is important to me, because there were years that I went by where I was in the library, I was reading books, I was learning, I was going to conferences, listening to, different types of audio learning opportunities. Back in the day, I remember listening to Zig Ziglar a lot. That was my guy. But I remember getting knowledge and seeing my world change. And listen to me, y'all. I told y'all this before. For me, school is about one thing. I just want to be in control of my life. I'm just being honest. I'm the type of person that when we talk about the pursuit, of happiness, when we talk about the American dream, like I really want to live it, and I want to live it on my terms. I'm not that guy. Oh, he's a rebel. I'm not. I just want to be free. And so I want to go to my daughter's events when she has them. I want to be able to travel with my family when it's appropriate. I want to be able to wake up when I want to, which happens to be at 3:00 in the morning if you're watching me on Instagram. So I'm not sleeping in. I just want to be able to do it when I want to do it on my terms. And so one of the things I realized is knowledge is important. But for me, it didn't make sense just to get knowledge and not necessarily get the credentials that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
So since I was already learning, I might as well get the 4-year degree. I was already learning. I was at a major university. So my situation is different. I wasn't working somewhere and then had to go to college. I drove to the university every day. I walked past the classrooms to get to my office. And they pay for you to get a degree at Michigan State if you work there. So it didn't make sense not to get a master's and a PhD. I was already in the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were certain credentials that they rewarded you for at Michigan State. Master's was one. If you had a 4-year degree, you couldn't teach, right? You could work as a, staff, right? But not faculty. So I'm like, why would I be here and not be able to be faculty? So then as a master's degree recipient, I was able to teach certain courses, but I couldn't get grants or I couldn't make certain decisions. So I was like, yo, I'm here. You mean to tell me I don't got to come to work, but I could go to class? Like, come on, who wouldn't do that? So I went and got my PhD so that I could get both the experience and the rewards, right? So there are a lot of people who are getting the experience, but they're not getting the reward. I wanted both. And so I decided, since the opportunity availed itself, I was on campus, I was student, what do they call it? College reimbursement, that I was going to take advantage of every opportunity I could take. So for me, that's my journey. Is not, I want to hang my degrees on the wall. I want people to call me doctor. It has nothing to do with that. But if I'm going to speak and you're going to pay me an additional $40,000 or $50,000 because I have a PhD, and you paying for me to get it, and you let me take off work to go get it, it only makes sense to take advantage of every single opportunity that avail itself. So this is the ET academic story. Oh, and Didi wouldn't date me if I didn't go to college. So,
Reason enough.
I had a lot of incentives, and none of them were to become smarty pants or to become better than none of that. None of that. They were all personal goals, and I saw education as a way to make those personal goals become a reality.
And we want to get that message into the hands of more students through the large amount of educators that are hanging with us here.
Yeah, Vondale, holla at me. I'm saying Vondale because Marquay Ball I met through Vondale, and I didn't even know Vondale's academic history. He never told me. But Marquay was like, yo, we were college, whatever. I was like, y'all went to college together. He never told me y'all went to college together. Like, yeah, we went to college together. So I know you got a college story, Vondale. Holla at your boy.
Man, first one out the family to graduate from college. My father was the baby of the family. He was the youngest of 9, grew up in Otterby Wells housing projects on the south side of Chicago. Father graduated from Phillips, which is right down the street from Dunbar. Yeah. All my family, we either went to Dunbar or Phillips in the Bronzeville community. Yeah. But for me to be able to go to college through the power of mentorship, my mentor exposed me to a trip. I saw myself going to college. I went to Oral Roberts University, which is where I met Brother Marquay Ball. By the way, M.A.S.S conference is coming up May 21st. Make sure you're in Atlanta.
Yes.
And he grew up in North Tulsa. So the Tulsa Black Wall Street, he was the first person in 1998 to tell me about Tulsa Black Wall Street.
Wow.
And the power of what I did was I went to college to become a teacher. So I was an elementary education major. And then I went back to get my master's degree in family therapy, and I merged the two together. And so mentorship now is what I do. And my goal is to help young men see themselves fulfilling their dreams and goals. And we do it through education, empowerment, and exposure, which are the 3 E's of the CHAMPS mentoring program. So, I work my way from, just being a teacher to being an administrator and put 20 years in. So just super excited now that we opening up and unlocking pathways and pipelines for the young people that we get a chance to impact here in the great city of Chicago and beyond. So
inroads.
Amazing.
Sam, talk to me. Sam.
Woo, that's a lot to follow up with.
None of us played ball. None of us played basketball. So it ain't nothing.
There we go.
Ain't nothing to follow up. None of us was hoopers. So talk to us.
Man, I'm so excited about this, new name of the podcast, and just thinking about the work that each of you do and that I've witnessed also, like mass impact. I'm just so excited about the collaboration that will take place, the motivation, the action steps. So I'm Samantha Lurie. I'm from Lansing, Michigan. And I guess a little background about me, just thinking about what you just said, E, about how the trickle down impact, right, of you, the generational impact of you and what you accomplished. And so for me, my mother was a first generation college student. She got her master's degree. She was a social worker for most of my life, and then stepped into a CEO role in like the last 5 years. Wow. And so I just think about, she broke that glass ceiling, and what that, just reflecting on that over the years of like what that meant for me is like, I'm looking at her and what she's doing, And so my father is a teacher at Waverly High School in Lansing, Michigan. He's still teaching history there. Wow. And and so, you know, having a father that was a teacher, I'm like, I don't want to be a teacher. I remember he used to have me grade the paper, like, yeah, Dad, I'll help grade papers. And then when I had to be a teacher and grade my own papers, I'm like, okay, now I understand why he asked me to help him. So you know, I joined Teach for America and moved to St. Louis back in 2008 and was a special education teacher for 8 years. Moved into school leadership at the same school. I was able to collaborate with E a lot when I was at that school, and launched a nonprofit called Show Me the World Project. So I've co-founded that project, and it is our mission to provide transformational educational opportunities for students in under-resourced communities at home and abroad internationally. So definitely, I think one thing that I've realized over the years is just the collective impact that we can have, you know, with each other and through the collaboration. And so that's why I'm just excited to be here with each of you to collaborate with our community across the nation and globally, because at the end of the day, I know I've seen the impact that education and knowledge has had on my students as a teacher, friends, family members, all of that. And I'm just excited to, you know, to be here and learn and share along the way. So
love it.
Let's get it.
Love it.
Yes, definitely. We're lucky that you are here, Sam. We're so glad that you're part of the group too, and love hearing about Show Me the World and Champs and all of the things that are happening individually and collectively as we work together. So it's so exciting. So I didn't share about my, I love hearing the elementary teacher in the building over there with Vondale. And E, you were in the elementary classroom for a while too, right?
I was. Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
And, so and E was my little sister's teacher.
That's
connection.
You feel me?
Wow.
And she was like, she was in elementary school when I taught her. Yeah.
That's so fun. So I got an elementary degree originally too, Vondale. So I spent a lot of time in kindergarten, first and second grade, and founded a literacy camp in that space because I love the little ones. Have 3 little ones of my own at home that keep me very busy. And then I went back to get my master's in reading. So I have a reading specialist certification and degree from Michigan State also. And then from there, I made the jump to high school. They asked me to come there to help with students that needed the reading support. And so it was a big jump. I went from second grade all the way to those 9th through 12th graders and found out that I loved high schoolers too so much. Especially my heart is for those students really that are struggling a little bit. So they're the ones that end up always being my favorite and just want to be there to support them. And so spent time in both the elementary and high school space, a little bit of time in middle school, but I'm a high school and elementary person. Those middle school teachers. Sam, were you in middle school for a bit?
I know. I've been in high school the whole time.
Yeah, I was in middle school. It's tough. Yeah, middle school is
special heart for sure. Yeah. So that's my background. And then I'm working. I'm so grateful to be working with E on feeling like this is where I'm called to be, to make a larger impact with more students and more teachers. So we're working on a project, Access EDU, where we're trying to increase literacy and leadership skills, specifically in low-income communities, and really making a big impact there with the Playbook program. And maybe some of you have seen recently, combining that with the youth exposure program where we're able to take students on amazing life-changing trips like the Super Bowl this year. So really excited about the impact ahead that we are making in this space, but really also looking forward to highlighting teachers and having more teachers and administrators coming to join us to share about the really good work that they are doing as well. So that can inspire more educators that are watching.
And you know what?
Go for it, Sam.
Just really quickly, it just makes me think about the education ecosystem, right? And I think that's what this podcast is all about, right? There are so many people that can and do play a role in the entire education ecosystem. And it wasn't until like I was in the classroom, but you know, when you're in the classroom, it's like you have so much coming at you from the day to day. And I'm really excited about how this podcast will also help elevate and learn from the education ecosystem, because that collaboration is key. But sometimes we're so busy and zoomed in on the thing that's right in front of us that I think, being able to learn from different guests and whatnot and being able to see these different connection points is going to have a mass impact as well.
Oh, no question whatsoever. Go back if you haven't to all of our other episodes. There's gems in it. I want to do this before we get out of here, and I'll start off as an example, but I want to talk about just quickly what we hope that education would do for the kids, that we work with specifically. And, for me, one is social justice. I think education has the potential to be one of, the major keys, to unlock certain generational curses, certain pitfalls, et cetera. And more specifically, for me, I think we can do it in three ways. I believe that reading comprehension, is critical. I think critical thinking and problem solving, is important. And I'm not interested in kids becoming critical thinkers only in the construct of the classroom, but taking that constructive criticism, taking that critical thinking, taking comprehension outside of the classroom and being able to use it to help them solve everyday problems, and I think with our transparent approach, we're able to do that. So if you guys don't mind, I'll throw it to Katie. Katie, for you, how do you hope to empower young people with the tool of education, and what do you hope that it will do for them specifically?
Yeah. My heart is for readers. I got my Read Your Heart Out shirt on today because I really, really believe it changes things for kids when they believe they are readers. A lot of students at all age levels, I think, just don't think that they like to read, and then therefore don't engage in reading. And then it impacts those critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, academic success. And so I love trying to get students to see themselves as readers and to find books that they're interested in reading. And I really, really believe there is so much space for that in the classroom. And educators, I feel you that your time is so limited and it's hard to fill, your time gets filled easily, right? So it's hard to add that choice things in. But I really believe in choice reading, and that if we can get kids reading books they want to read, they'll read all the other ones too. They'll see themselves as readers. Their academic levels skyrocket. Their life opportunities, like you're talking about, are widely opened up when they become readers and have academic success. So I think one of the ways to do that is to make sure that kids have access to really quality books, and books that are both doors and windows. So books that, mirrors and windows. So mirrors, books they can see themselves in, that are relevant to them, and that they see representation that matches who they are and who their families are. And then also books that are windows that provide them an opportunity to look into lives that are different from their own, and provide them with empathy and life skills that maybe aren't already happening for them. So, you're going to hear me share some book ideas and reading ideas, because I really think that's going to make the long-term large impact in the education space.
I love that, Katie. And I have a reading certification, and I just remember I got that in about after year 8. And so I think I love the angle that you're bringing in, because it's not just for reading teachers, right? And I thought about oh man, if I had known all these strategies, during the first 7 years of my teaching career, I could have helped strengthen reading so much more in the science classroom, right? Sure. So, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. E, can you repeat your question one more time?
Yeah. So just, And I know, with Show Me the World, I know one of the big things for you're using education to expose kids to worlds, that they've never seen, so they can come back to their world.
Yep.
Because it's like you don't live in Costa Rica, but you want them to come back here and take their world to another level. So the question was just, again, how do you hope education would impact, the young people that, you're working with and that we work with collaboratively?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think what you mentioned this earlier about freedom, right? Like the freedom, the choice, that is what I hope for all of our students, to be able to have that freedom and choice and a path to economic stability and mobility. And to be able to think innovatively about these are the structural systems that are in place, but you can break those systems also. And so I think like I had a conversation earlier today that was blowing me away, because I think many people know, like for Show Me the World, we use coffee as a fundraising tool, right, to provide more equitable access to international travel. And it's been massive for us in terms of amount of students we're able to take. And so somebody was just explaining to me, like, do you know that there's a whole, like at UC Davis, there's a whole program for baristas and agricultural, like, and then you can enter into a job at $60,000 per year. And, you know, he was explaining, like, a lot of people think like baristas or, you know, people who serve coffee and make it like that it's like a minimum wage job or whatnot. And even the access to that type of knowledge, I did not know that. I did not know that that program existed, you know, and it's like, how do we continue to build these pathways, right, for freedom, choice, economic mobility, and stability? And so I think that's one thing that's on my mind as well when I think about empowerment and that innovative thinking, freedom, and choice for all our students.
Love it. Love it. Vondale, wrap us up, man. I know you already doing it, but share with the world how you're using education to help these kids, you know, in a real way.
Yeah, I think for me, E, is just kind of remembering a journey on how I got into the position that I got in. It was through a mentor. And he said, man, the same thing I did for you, do for somebody else. And it wasn't a book, but he did like stamp the DNA of mentorship on my heart by actions. Yeah. So we're not doing a whole bunch of talking. We got to show up. I got 300 young men in a CHAMPS program. Mm-hmm. We on the west side. We on the south side. We just started in Calumet City last week. Good. And everybody know Lil Durk. So it went viral last week. Lil Durk came by. Yeah, and surprised our young men. But I pulled him to the side and said, look, we ain't on no street stuff. We on HBCU tour, college readiness, using your platform for access. Yes. So now we want to create multiple trips of exposure. And so we had to create a scholarship committee emergency meeting last night. And so for me, education, when I look at the words impact, we're talking about getting results and using platforms to gain better access for our communities. Economic empowerment, social justice, but then at the end goal is independence and freedom. So we don't have to rely on anybody. We can create our wealth. We can create generational blessings just through, like you talk about, the information changes the situations. Yeah, that's what we own right now. We getting the information, we applying the information, we getting the results, and now people want to replicate the program. So, yeah.
Yes. And the impact that those kids are then going to make on the world is just crazy to think about. So
it's crazy.
Generation right there.
Hey, and I'm that age where I see kids graduating and I see what they're doing. And it's wonderful. So, all right, that was our first massive impact, episode 1. We hope you guys will be inspired, ignited to do something powerful in your own space, encouraged to know that no matter what's going on in this world, we can make this world a better place. You know, we can make this world a better place. So, as always, still throwing it over to Coach B. Coach B, take us away.
Welcome back, everybody, to the absolute, bar none, coolest principal's office you have ever been to. Welcome back to B's Office Hours. I know you thought that the office was closed for a little bit. You thought we took a break. Not at all. We had a little summertime off, and now it's back to the office. So look, it is the rebrand edition of B's Office Hours today because, of course, we are introducing or reintroducing M.A.S.S, Impact, the Education Podcast. I'm super excited for this new chapter of the podcast, and it's going to be bigger and better than ever. And I'm so happy that you all are along for this ride with us. So a couple of quick things that we had to take care of today. First and foremost, we had to reintroduce our presenters, our hosts, Katie, Samantha, Vondale, and of course, the one and only E.T., the hip hop preacher. Second of all, we had to talk a little bit about what is this podcast really about? What is the mission for this thing? A few things that we want to touch on there. Number one, education is for everyone. It doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter your socioeconomic status, nothing else matters. Education is for you, and as an educator, education is for all of your students. every last one of them, because we genuinely believe education makes the world a better place. And you play a critical role in making that happen. Number 2, we want to be a part of the massive impact, not just a little impact, the massive impact that not only supports the students, but the educators that impact as well. So there's 2 sides of this equation. When we talk about mass impact, we're talking about making a mass impact on our students, but we're also talking about making a mass impact on you as an educator, because watch what happens when we can impact you, or when you impact another educator, or when anybody impacts an educator. That impact always trickles down to the students, positive or negative impact. And so what we want to do is be that source for you that can pour into you and give you that inspiration, give you that tactical knowledge, these strategies that you can go back and apply in your classroom to make an impact, not just on you, but on your students as well. Last but not least, mass impact. A little bit of a double entendre there. So what does that actually stand for? A few things. M, motivation. We've got to keep you motivated. If your gas tank is empty, you cannot possibly be able to pour into your students. So we have to make sure that we keep you operating at 120% so that we can make sure that that impact goes on and transfers to your students. Number 2, A, is actionable tips. We don't want to just motivate you. Motivation is important, don't get us wrong. It's super important. However, it's not enough by itself. We want to give you actionable tips, tactical tools, strategies that you can go back to your classroom and use and see results just like that. Of course, S and S, that is going to be our support system. We're a support system. This is a family. This podcast is not just us talking to you. It's us talking to you, you talking to us, all of us operating together in this ecosystem, supporting one another and helping each other do what we need to do to create a truly massive impact. We want educators, mentors, youth leaders, everybody to be intentional and deliberate about massively impacting not just the world, but your world and the students' world. That's what we're here for. So look, before we leave for today, I got a quick little story for you. I was at this men's conference, 360 Men's Conference hosted by Dr. Eric Thomas. Some of you may have heard of it. I was at this conference and a guy named Willie Moe Jr. was speaking. And what he told me was that a lot of times people, just imagine, just close your eyes and imagine that you have the letter M in your hand, just the letter M, right, in your hand. And he said that what happens is when people do that, they automatically assume that there's something more to it. It can't just be the letter M, there's something else attached to it. And what people do is they just assume, it's got to say mess. Starts with an M. I feel uncomfortable even doing this visualization exercise. It probably says mess, right? What he said, though, was that if you only get a glimpse of something and you assume that it's a mess, you're going to manifest your mess. What does that mean? It means that if you assume the worst, you're going to get the worst. But what would happen if you take that same M and say, you know what? I bet that spells miracle. I bet the rest of that is a miracle. You might just manifest a miracle instead. What am I trying to tell you? In your classroom, I know it can look like a mess sometimes. I know it gets messy. I know it gets hectic. I know it gets crazy. There's a million things going on. Students, faculty, you're juggling everything. I get it. But there's an opportunity there for you to be the miracle in those students' lives, because that's really what making a mass impact is all about. So until next time, thank you so much for watching B's Office Hours, and we'll see you next time on Mass Impact, the Education Podcast.